Hello there and welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle and on this channel we talk about all things personality type, and in particular we like talking about which types would survive which situation. And I think no time is better than the present to talk about which type would survive the Hunger Games. So what I've done here is I've collected some pictures of Effie and Haymitch and tried to match them approximately to the personality type. I'm pretty proud of what pictures I picked for each personality. I feel like they match. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna rank them in terms of how well they would survive the Hunger Games. So the first ones are the ones dying at the cornucopia. They're not making it. They're not making it for 2 seconds. Then we have the ones who couldn't last the night. These are the ones who made it past the cornucopia but fell short before the night was over. Then there are the ones who die before the mutts are out. The mutts are not necessary to take them out. Someone else is going to take them out. Then there's the almost made it. These ones the mutts were necessary for. And then the success imminent are the ones that are most likely to be in that final top 2 category. So without further ado, we have our categories. Now let's go ahead and start our ranking. First is the ESFJ. Now I think this is kind of perfect because Effie is an ESFJ, but I digress. She was never in the Hunger Games, so we can't really use her as a point of reference for how well this type would survive. But let's be honest. Do you guys think this one's gonna last past the cornucopia? I just don't see it. I see them thinking that they need to go in there. All their friends are going in. They're checking the vibes and they're following the vibes of their friends, the people that they thought were friends. But you know, the thing about the Hunger Games is no one's your friend. And the ESFJ just would not be able to understand that, and they wouldn't make it past the cornucopia. They were gonna die at the cornucopia, and I'm so sorry, ESFJs. There are just some things that we're not meant for. You know what I'm saying? Even if you had a plan going in, I think you would just be tricked by your love of other people, and it would just be over before it started. Now, an ESTJ, I think is gonna make it pretty far. They're gonna have a plan in place before they go in because they've watched the Hunger Games their entire life. They're not blindsided by this situation. But the thing is, yeah, they're gonna last a night, right? Like they're gonna be smart enough. They're probably gonna have a group of people that go with them to the cornucopia, like they're gonna have their posse or whatever, and they can probably last a night. But the thing is, they're going to be killed by their friends because ESTJs don't really understand how to navigate that situation, and they're not super adaptable to the various things that could happen. The people stabbing them in the back, they probably would struggle to really see that coming, especially if it's someone that they thought they had a kinship with. And in general, they're kind of annoying, and so I feel like someone's going to kill them once they get past like the first night and feel comfortable. I also don't know why that scrolled just now. ESFPs are very smart. In the moment, they're going to see that the cornucopia is a bad idea. They are going to recognize that immediately, which means that they're probably not going to run into the cornucopia. They're going to run away from the cornucopia because they've watched the carnage. They see how bad of an idea that is, so they've got the hell out of Dodge. But the thing is, ESFPs, you forgot to grab something from the cornucopia because you were too worried about getting out of there. And because you left without any supplies, you're not going to make the night because those supplies are imperative to survival. They're going to have rope, they're going to have blankets, they're going to have food, they're gonna have knives, weapons, etc. Without that cornucopia stuff, you're gonna pass, and because you're gonna be smart enough not to go into the cornucopia and die, you're probably not gonna get anything. If you got something, you could definitely make it, but I just don't see the ESFP really lasting the night, because even if they do get stuff from the cornucopia, they are very loud, they are very proactive and impulsive, and I just struggle to see a world where they make it very far in the Hunger Games. Prove me wrong in the comments. Tell me how I'm wrong. So the ISFJ has seen the Hunger Games her entire life. She's been paying attention. She's got a little bit of a plan. I mean, let's not say that she's got the best plan in place, but she's got a plan. She knows how to survive the first day. She knows that's where half the contestants tend to die, and she will not be one of those 50%. But that means she's probably gonna make it through the night because she's gonna isolate herself. She's not gonna be able to be seen by other people. Her strategy is probably gonna be that of isolation. But the thing is, she's gonna have to run out of supplies eventually. She's not going to be fully prepared. Probably not the best hunter, you know what I'm saying? I do think eventually she's going to be found and taken out. I don't think the mutts are going to be necessary for an ISFJ, because if an ISFJ saw somebody hurt on the ground, would they be able to say no to going over and helping them? Like, would they be able to say no? Unless they hated them. I don't think they could just watch from a distance, and that would be their downfall. INTPs, they have a plan. They have a full-on plan. But here's the thing. Their plan involves and requires grabbing something from the cornucopia in order to survive. They know that if they don't get into the cornucopia day one, they're not going to get anything. So they're running into the cornucopia like hell, trying to make sure that they grab something, which is going to be their demise, because, you know, the INTP not fast enough, not competent enough with a knife to really make it past the first. I mean, there's a small chance that an INTP can make it past there. And then they could end up being in a place like Beatty. Later on down the line, they can figure something out. But the INTP would have to survive the cornucopia, and I think the average INTP has no chance of surviving the cornucopia. And I feel like they know that they're gonna need the supplies from the cornucopia, which means they're probably gonna die. Can you imagine an INTP getting away from an ESTP? It's not gonna happen. Then we have the ENFJ. ENFJs, thought out, thorough, future focused. They're also gonna have a little bit of a posse going on, but the thing is, they're gonna underestimate the power of the posse. They're gonna underestimate how much people just actually don't care. They know there's a little voice in the back of their head that says, like, don't trust these people. They know not to do it, but they can't help themselves. They want to see the best in people. They want to help people. They're going to be the ones that think, like, okay, maybe this is the year that we're going to have a Katniss PETA situation. They're the ones that would, like, optimistically look towards that. Even though they know it's not real, they're going to have that in the back of their mind. And because of that, night's going to happen. Their throat's going to be slit by somebody that they thought they were friends with. Next, we have the best type, obviously, the ENFP. I feel like an ENFP is going to do a really good job of getting sponsorships. I think that's going to be really their saving grace. An ENFP could probably get out of the cornucopia with at least a backpack, at least like a knife or something. They're going to get something. They can probably escape. But the problem is, once they escape, they're going to have to do a really good job of convincing people. I think they could do a pretty good job of acting, so I think they could get a group to survive long enough to make it pretty far. And then for things that they couldn't survive with the group, they can get additional services through the sponsors. I think they would rely heavily on the sponsors. I feel like they're almost gonna make it. Do you see an ENFP surviving the mutts? Because I don't. I don't see any situation. I mean, maybe if the mutts were like jabberjays or like a snake or something, but if the mutt was anything like, can you imagine a bear? No, the ENFP would not survive. They try to be clever, but like, no, they're not gonna survive. ISTJ, opposite of the ENFP, they are in with a plan. They have been practicing, they have been preparing their skills for this very moment. They've known their entire life there's a chance that they could go into the Hunger Games, so they've been preparing their body, mind, and soul for this moment. Because of that, they're gonna make it pretty far, and they could probably make it to the point where the mutts come out. But the problem is, when the mutts are out, somebody who's more clever could easily trick the ISTJ into doing something stupid, because the ISTJ needs a plan for things, and when things happen outside of their like realm of awareness or realm of experience, it can be really difficult for them. So I think the ISTJ definitely has a better chance than the ENFP, but I don't know if their success is quite imminent, because when mutts are out, right, it's not just for one person. Like, they wouldn't do that at the end of the game. There's multiple people left, and I think someone more clever than the ISTJ is going to make that like last minute move that's going to have the ISTJ attacked by the mutts in an insurmountable way. So close, and yet so far. But then we have the ENTJ. I feel like it goes without saying, but they're gonna be in the success imminent section. There's a few reasons why. I feel like the Hunger Games is the perfect kind of game for an ENTJ to survive. So first things first, in the beginning, they're going to be effective at having a group together. They had a plan since the day they got put onto the roster. Now, they're not the type that would assume that they'd go. They probably worked really hard to make sure their name was in the jar like the least amount of times. But, you know, they got pulled. This is their time. They got to go. They're going to be very quick to come up with a strategic plan where they have a group of people that they start with, and then they know that they can't trust those people, so they're never going to rely on them fully. They know never to rely on anyone in the Hunger Games, but they're going to use the group at first. They're going to get the supplies. They're going to survive for a while. They're going to run that group for a while. But as time progresses, they're going to have to kill their own party members, and who's going to feel zero qualms about it other than an ENTJ or maybe an INTJ? They're going to feel nothing about it. They know that it's an inevitability that they need to in order to survive, so they're going to feel fine about doing that, and they're going to get to the end. I also could see an ENTJ putting up a good fight against something like a bear. They have enough of that SE to be able to adapt to it. They're the ones tricking the ISTJ into falling. You know what I'm saying? This next one, I feel like we don't even need to describe. If anyone disagrees, you guys are crazy. ISTP's in the success imminent. I mean, for most survivals, I feel like an ISTP is going to do really well. And in Hunger Games, that is no exception. Getting the supplies, getting out of Dodge, hiding, waiting for enough people to be killed off, hunting people down. I mean, you know, just think if like Dwight Dixon got in there, you know, I think he'd do just fine. But then we have ISFP, which I think is gonna fall under the same category as ESFP for a lot of the same reasons. Smart enough to realize that if they run into the cornucopia, they're probably not gonna make it. Very feely, and I think it'd be really hard for them to hurt anybody, knowing that they have to kill someone, especially someone from their own sector. I don't see a world where they make it through the first night. Because they did not grab the supplies from the cornucopia, they're not gonna be able to survive the night. And that's not their fault. ISFP, you're the sweetest humans ever, but I don't think the Hunger Games is for you. And do you really want it to be for you? Do you want to have to kill a bunch of people? I don't think so. Now, I think the ENTP is gonna have to go in the same category as the ENFP, and I think slightly above because they're very clever, they're very good at putting up the right facade, whereas the ENFP is genuinely getting the sponsorships, the ENTP is playing a character to get the sponsorships, and they're going to do a very, very effective job about it, but that lack of SC is really going to bite them in the butt. ENTP versus a bear, if the right circumstances were there, they could probably survive the mutts, but I don't see a really high chance of them surviving. And because the ISTJ planned a lot more and was prepared like physically, I think the ISTJ has a better chance. So I think this is a good place for the ENTP. Now INFP, I feel like you and I need to talk really fast about this one, and I want to apologize in advance, but you know this is where you belong. You're gonna have a panic attack the second the like shot goes off to say it's time to start. You're gonna be stuck, you're not gonna be able to move. Someone's gonna take advantage of that. You don't want to be in the Hunger Games. You don't have to kill somebody. That's not in your nature. So don't you think it's almost better that you get deer in headlights and just kind of like get it over with quickly? Then let's talk about the INTJ. They have a plan, but they didn't prepare, right? Like the ISTJ prepared. They physically prepared their body. The INTJ prepared their mind. So they're mentally ready for the Hunger Games. They know that they're gonna have to backstab people. They know that they're gonna have to make false alliances to last enough into the game to survive. But here's the thing, the INTJ just can't be arsed to practice it. They can't be arsed to actually form those alliances. They'd rather just do things on their own. So I think they could survive quite a while because they'd be smart enough to like watch what other people are doing. They definitely survived the night. They knew that they could not leave the cornucopia without something. And I could see an INTJ being really good at running and popping in, popping out, being able to dodge. But once they're out, they'll definitely survive the nights. I think they could also survive the first rounds. Like they would hide, they'd be out of the way. They're not going to be tricked like an ISFJ. They're not going to be killed by their own party because they don't have a party. So I think they're going to be at least in the almost made it section. Let me ask you this, guys. Unless the circumstances are just right, do you see an INTJ without any physical practice being able to outdo a mutt? Maybe they could plan something, get it, maybe in the right circumstances. Like Katniss really had the right circumstances there at the end. I really don't think an INTJ is going to be able to do this once it gets against the mutts. So I think right below ISTJ, because ISTJ is more physically capable, they've practiced. INTJ is mentally. I think the INTJ, well, you know what though? They're not going to get the sponsorships. No one's gonna like them really. They can't be bothered to try to be likable. I think that seems fair. Then let's go to ESTP. And I feel like this category is pretty obvious as well, but you might disagree, but I think they have a really high chance of survival. I see them being smart enough to get into the cornucopia, get out. They're probably in the ENTJ or ESTJ's group. So they're grouped up. They're smart enough to do that early on. They know that they need to get away from the group eventually. They're going to be physically capable to handle any kind of backstabbing from somebody else. They might be outwitted at some point, but I think they're really adaptable and they're very cool and logical, and they're not going to be blindsided as easily as some of the other types. So I think they have a really high chance of survival, and I can 100% see an ESTP taking on a bear. Like, couldn't you? Couldn't you? If the mutt was a bear, obviously. I keep using mutt equals bear, but I'm just like imagining worst case scenario mutt. ESTP could probably handle any of those. Let's be real. Then we have the INFJ, and I feel like this one has been the most difficult for me to place into a position because the INFJ is going to be likable, but they're also going to be very reserved. They're going to isolate themselves. I feel like Fox face girl was kind of that INFJ vibe. Very smart, paying attention to what other people are doing and following suit and like making sure she's not doing anything that's not calculated and well thought out. I don't see her surviving any mutts. I don't know if she'd even get to the point where there are mutts because would she be found? See, because an INFJ could fall into the same trap as an ISFJ, but maybe a little less likely because they know going in what they have to do. But I feel like, yeah, maybe like the top of the before the mutts are out. So let's look over this organization just one more time and just make sure we feel really good about everything. So we got the success imminent category. Would the ISTP be above the ENTJ? Probably. Like when push comes to shove, if the two of them are fighting, the ESTP has the raw talent, the ENTJ has the intellect and the like future focus. It would be a showdown. It would be a showdown. ISTP, you know, I think you would just survive a little better than ENTJ than ESTP. I mean, we know ESTP is kind of at the bottom of this category. They're not better than an ISTP because the ISTP wouldn't get involved with a group. ESTP has a chance. Okay, they have a chance of being killed by the group. But see, they could survive. They could survive the mutts. I feel like they have a good chance. I feel like they have a really good chance. Then we have the almost made it. These are the ones killed by the mutts. The ISTJ, the NPs, the INTJ. These ones are killed by the mutts. Sorry, you guys. This feels right. Before the mutts are out, these are killed by other people or killed by circumstance, but they did make it through the first night. I feel pretty good about this list. The INFJ, I feel really confused about where to place them. I almost want to put them in a different category, but because I could put them in both directions, I feel like I have to keep them here. ESTJ, ENFJ, I feel good about this. ISFJ as well. The SPs, the SFPs, I love you guys, but you probably wouldn't last the night, it's okay. And then the dying at the cornucopia, absolutely. I feel very good about these ones dying at the cornucopia. I think it's a fact. I think it's beyond a shadow of a doubt a fact. So that's my list. That's the tier list for The Hunger Games. Tell me how the movie is. Did you hate it? Did you love it? Let me know down below. Was it worth it? I feel like Snow's a little too hot for what he is in the movie, but we'll see. I want to thank you all so much for watching my indisputable ranking of the 16 personality types surviving The Hunger Games. What are your thoughts? Tell me down below. Tell me where you disagree and where you do agree, where you would like to see your type. And with that, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a beautiful, amazing, fantastic day. Bye.